another trade involving a big heart and soul piece of your team. How difficult was this to actually pull the trigger on this and send Blake to Tampa Bay?
Extremely tough. Anytime you trade a player, it's extremely tough. There's emotions. There's a fan favorite. I know it's not a popular thing to do as a manager, but we're in a situation where we're at right now this season, and to the return I felt for Blake, and believe me, there were a lot of teams calling. He was a very popular player. I just felt it was too good to ignore. With uncertainty, we're going to be competitive next year. We will. We'll be competitive. What does a return look like in a year if we can't sign him on July 1st? Does he reprice himself? What's that going to be? That all plays into the equation. But at the end of the day, when you get returns that were offered to me, and I had multiple really good returns, it has to make you think what's best for the organization long term.
With the return with Foot, what was it about him that you just said I have to pull the trigger?
Well, he's 6'4". He scores goals. He's got an NHL shot already. He turns pro next year, so we'll get to see him quicker. There's a lot to like about this player. He's a player that I thought really thrived at the World Juniors. I saw him in the summer at the World Junior camp, and I was extremely impressed with the size, the hands around the net, and definitely the shot. So those type of players don't grow on trees. So when that's being offered to you, you have to think. You really do.
Was there any thought of not trading Coleman and keeping him as somebody to build around before teams started calling on him?
Well, again, I wasn't out shopping Blake Coleman. But when you start getting phone calls on Blake Coleman and the names and the asset returns start growing, you have to think, like, this outweighs the short term. We don't know if we're going to have Blake Coleman in 2 years. He may walk on us. That's his right as a UFA. So again, those are all things that played a part of this decision. But the asset return was just something that made a lot of sense for the organization. I know it's not a popular move. I know that. I'm realistic. I went through it myself as a player. Felt I was a popular player at one time. But this is the business that chose us as players. But it's a business. And that's all I was doing with this trade. And again, maybe afford Blake Coleman a chance to win the Stanley Cup in the next 2 years.
What do you have to say to Devil fans that look at a young roster now moving forward after next year?
We will be competitive. My goal is to, because of the way this season has gone, not the way any of us wanted to, the players, the coaches, management, it has not gone the way we want. We're in this situation because of the underperformance. And at this point in the juncture of the season, it's time to regain some assets to apply forward. I can't sit there and tell you that some of these assets will be used at the draft. They could be used to find the next Kyle Palmieri like we did 5 years ago. Johansson. You never know what can come your way in the spring. That's what I'm targeting. That's what's important to me, for us, to be competitive and scratch and claw that next step to try to get in the playoffs. As these young kids grow with men that need to surround them to help them grow. That I have not lost sight of that at all.
Tom, a lot of people might think, well, what's the difference with what Ray was doing and what Tom is doing right now? Is the difference what you have down the middle prior to making these moves with Hischier and Hughes?
Well, I mean, I was Ray's right-hand man, and we've always looked at the strengths of this organization down the middle, knowing that when the lottery chose us, and our name came up last year, knowing Jack Hughes was going to be that pick and knowing what the future was going to hold for this organization long term with the two centers, the two pillars coming down the middle. Listen, I'm in this situation for a reason. This season did not go the way it was supposed to go. That's not because a plan was different. We underperformed October, November, December. A coach got fired, manager got fired, and we pivoted to try to get ahead with asset management and apply that moving forward. Like I said, these are nice coups to have with moving forward, trying to continue to build this team and be competitive, not just take the legs underneath us and we're going to start. We don't need to start over. We've got two big pieces, and you saw the other piece in goal tonight. Okay, so we have holes. My job, if it's my job, is to fix some holes.
Travis Zajac was pretty adamant about saying he wants to stay here, he wants to help guys on and off the ice, but if you had some sort of very enticing package for him, would you lay out the situation?
He's not going anywhere.
He's not going anywhere. Travis is off limits.
He's not going anywhere.
You just talk about, obviously, trading a 14-year vet, Andy. I know you spoke earlier.
Very hard. Extremely hard. I'm sure Andy thought he'd be a Devil for life, but I'm sure Andy thought this season would go better, that we wouldn't get to this point for someone like me to ask him if he wanted to waive his no trade and play in the playoffs and have a kick at Stanley Cup playoffs and potentially winning a cup. That's how these situations go, and it was very delicate. Andy was very intrigued about it and then got excited about it, and he earned that. He's earned that. So what he has brought to this organization for the past 14 years is an incredible honor, and I thank him, his family, for all that, and what he's done to stand up in that room day in, day out. That's not an easy thing, especially when you have a season like this. And he's a true professional. He's got great character, and like I said earlier, he's a good hockey player, but he's a much better person.
Tom, are you still getting calls for players other than your current UFAs as well?
There are a lot of teams that like to kick tires and see where we're at. I'm guessing my phone will ring a little more now because of what I did today. But I'm not looking to get rid of players. I'm looking to really move the organization, continue to move it forward, and there are players here that will do that and help us.
Were you surprised with how quickly this Coleman deal came together with still a week to go before the deadline? It's been kind of quiet around the league otherwise.
Well, you know what, I guess I was, but I wasn't surprised. A lot of teams like to get to things early. One of the biggest reasons, I can attest to this, that they want you to mesh with the team quicker rather than later. And I went through it twice as a player. It's hard. If you have a runway a little bit longer to adjust to the situation, you're leaving family. You're going to a new market that you want to impress the market. You want to impress the new coaches that traded for you. Yeah, a little bit longer runway is useful. So that's the way teams looked at it. Is how their team could improve with a little more runway prior to the deadline. And as a player, to be honest with you, I wish I was traded a week and a half before so I could get adjusted a little quicker.
You've said a couple times today that there are holes. So what are the biggest holes that you have identified?
Well, I don't really want to get into specifics. I don't think it's a secret in some areas, but at the end of the day, we feel that we've addressed some needs on the back end through the draft, a previous trade that we're really excited about, that are coming through this organization, and we know they're not ready. We know they're not going to be ready. And we're not going to rush these guys. We're going to do this. They're going to develop. So in the meantime, we need to figure out how to fill some holes that have been. One was made today, And like I said, these could be hockey trades. They could be free agents. I don't have a crystal ball in front of me right now. So yeah, that's where I'm at with that.
Would you say these moves have been a long time coming in terms of trying to take this organization into the future?
No, because I don't think any of us would have said at the start of the season, no disrespect to Blake Coleman, that Blake Coleman would get this return. But Blake Coleman is having one heck of a year, and he's a really good hockey player. It's just the way the season had gone for us, unfortunately.
I'm sorry, Tom. You had mentioned that you're not really looking into signing players right now, but with some of the moves today, does that open the door that maybe that's a possibility between now and?
I'm going to be open to anything like that. I think I was just probably more concentrating on these couple things because they were pressing at the time. Now I can turn my attention to some other guys and figure out what we want to look like. It comes hand in hand with repricing of a player, a term of a player, the get for a player if players were available. And I'm taking this one day at a time, to be honest with you. Trying to compartmentalize, certain players, certain situations, and just handle it differently.